Growing up renting films from the DVD store down the road, it's safe to say I fell in love with films, specifically the art of storytelling. Then, as I tried some video games, it takes a special type of game that I truly feel draws a connection from the player to the character. Video games these days are their own storytelling mediums. I'll talk about some of the games that I feel best connects the player to the character. Having randomly stumbled upon this game from Xbox Game Pass, I was initially interested in the unique art style and animation. I definitely did not expect to have such a captivating 4-hour experience that's really refreshing from the fast-paced shooters of my childhood. Firewatch begins off with a brief prologue to introduce Henry to the player. With just a short introduction to Henry, you start to get an idea of who he is. He falls in love with woman and she falls in love with him. However, unfortunately, as she gets sick, he turns to alcohol and gets a DUI. Her parents believe that Henry's become a danger to her, so as a result they separate. So as everything's taken away from him, you're given a sense of injustice. The only thing he's left to do is to isolate himself. He gets a job at a park, a fire watch position, looking for fires in the distance and reporting them to stations. Firewatch was his escape, and as the player plays along, they start to feel the same sense of escape. Within the first hour or so, you've completely forgotten about his past, and that's what Henry is trying to accomplish too. Another way this sense of escape is driven is through the sense of mystery the story pushes, but it's met to an intentionally lackluster ending, as you're reminded that it's all temporary. The motif of escape is displayed through Henry and Delilah's relationship as well.
What is it?
Look, I was drunk last night when I welcomed you to the job.
Coming to the end, you almost forget that Henry's a married man. He and the player hope for some romance at all, but it's met to no avail.
Yeah, sure.
Henry, Look, you came out to put your memories behind you, and they're still right there in front of you.
Henry's job is an escape. It was a short-term position as a firewatch, and it's a short runtime of a narrative game. But that time you played Henry, you shared every emotion he had. Upon release, Firewatch was met with mixed reviews due to its ending. People felt cheated, that it was cheap. But so does Henry. He's frustrated that it ended that way, and so is the player. If there was one game I'd like to see adapted into a film, it's Red Dead Redemption 2. The story this game tells is truly a masterclass. One aspect that truly shines above the rest is the writing of its protagonist, Arthur Morgan. He may be rough around the edges, stoic, intimidating, and violent, but it's not that hard to see that he's selfless, he's caring, he's a family man.
Why you still can.
Who are they?
No one to worry about, no one at all. Come on, let's pick up your things and get home.
In the first act of the game, he's shown to be completely threatening and terrifying to his adversaries. Being the right-hand man of the Van der Linde gang, he handles the dirty work with his brute bare hands to debt collect and kill.
You borrowed money from my business partner, Herr Strauss. You owe him, you took the money. He wants it back, what's not to understand? Where's our money?
I don't have it.
Sell your place.
Thomas!
What are you looking at?
Thomas!
I said what you looking at, woman.
This is how Arthur sees himself, inherently a bad man doing bad things. From the player and Arthur's point of view, all of his actions are justified. The game leads you to believe that all his crimes are done for a greater good, the greater good being the survival of his gang and family. The main turning point in Arthur's character arc has to be his tuberculosis diagnosis. Being the strong, selfless man he is, facing the thought of morality changed his way of thinking. He begins to reflect on his crimes after every wheezing breath reminds him that death approaches. As a result, through the player's actions, Arthur becomes more thoughtful and charitable. He even goes as far as to seek forgiveness from a woman that he has widowed
I don't.
while collecting
Sure
debt.
shit needed. Take it.
No.
I ain't looking for forgiveness. It ain't about that. But don't forgive me. Just take the money and get out of here, please. I know I ruined your life. I suffer for it every day. Don't say anything. Don't thank me. Just take the money and pack your bags. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
I said don't thank me. Get out of here.
The ending of Arthur's story is so impactful to players due to Rockstar's game design through moral dilemmas solved throughout the world. The player's final decision is a noble sacrifice for his remaining family. The loss of Arthur sticks with the player well after the game is over.
The Stanley Parable is a first-person exploration game that critiques the conventional narrative structures in video games and explores the themes of free will and independence through rebellion. In the game, you play as Stanley, an office worker whose only job is to push buttons he is told to press from his monitor. One day, the monitor goes blank, and his office suddenly becomes empty. From here, the player takes control of Stanley as he tries to figure out what has happened to his co-workers. There's a narrator present that both dictates the player's actions and gives Stanley instructions on where to go and what to do.
He needed to go, from here it's, oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
Throughout the game, the narrator is quite witty in his remarks. However, the game adds a twist to the otherwise basic narrative structure by regularly breaking the fourth wall and reacting to the player's actions. This is quite unusual, as most other story-focused games try to build a connection with the game's main character, while in the Stanley Parable, the player becomes connected with the narrator.
Well, I sure hope you're having a good time, because guess what? It's over. That's right. Your little fun comes to an end. This is my game, and what I say goes. You get to have fun when I let you, Stanley. Besides, you need someone like me to set boundaries for you.
As the narrator reacts to the player's decisions, even if they oppose the narrator's dialogue, it adds more depth to the player-narrator dynamic. An area that exemplifies this player-narrator connection is the new content section, introduced in the Ultra Deluxe expansion. This segment of the game is presented as an add-on designed to freshen up the original experience, making fun of the nature of game sequels and expansions. As you explore the new content, the narrator goes from excited to anxious, reflecting on the pressure to deliver new and exciting features to please you, the player. The narrator desperately wants to entertain you, but as the content becomes increasingly absurd and nonsensical, his frustration grows. He begins to question whether the new content is even necessary, or if it's just a shallow attempt to keep the experience relevant.
Sort of. Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement.
This interaction drives home the central theme of the player-narrator connection. The narrator's commentary in the new content area reveals his deep need for validation, and it becomes clear that the new player is not just a passive participant. You are not just guiding Stanley through the new areas, you are directly influencing the narrator's emotional state. As he becomes more self-aware, the narrator's dialogue shifts from mere guidance to expressing a sense of insecurity and desperation for your approval. This vulnerability strengthens the connection, as the narrator is no longer just a voice. He becomes a character with his own desires, shaped by your actions and reactions.
Tell me he's a baby.
To wrap up, video games in our culture today have become ingrained as their own form of media and entertainment. These three unique experiences vary greatly in their genres, but all deliver a memorable story through different means. Firewatch is an emotional journey that you share with the character through his sense of adventure and escape. Red Dead Redemption 2, the most traditional of all the three, tells an excellent craft of the anti-hero's journey. And The Stanley Parable, the most unorthodox, is a meta-commentary on the structure of the video game development and the reception from the players. Today, video games are heavily commodified, pushing sales figures rather than experiences. Every so often though, there will be a game that you are truly connected to, either with the player or the atmosphere itself. Those are some of those games.